You may be wondering, what is Jeff up to with all these useless car parts? Well, my wife is wondering the same. So, hi, I'm Jeff and welcome back to the shed quarters. Now, this is where we left the Bitza build. Now, I've marked it out where I need to do some cutting, but we need to get the diff first. So, let's go get the diff. Yep, we did it. We stripped everything out of it and we're sending it off to scrap. When you slam an X-trail, it becomes an X-rail. And it's gone. So much space for activities. You may be wondering, what is Jeff up to with all these useless car parts? Well, my wife is wondering the same. So, this here is the rear diff out of the X-trail, and by the look of that, the crown wheel is 6 inches at most. This CV hub, I can nearly fit my hand all the way around it. It's about 60 millimeters. This drive shaft's 20 mil. Now, it's not going to transfer a lot of power. However, this diff has a party piece. In the front here, this big lump is actually an electronic clutch. So run power through it and it'll lock it up, or don't run power through it and it won't spin the wheels at all. Now for a rear diff, that's not a lot of fun. However, this is the front hub off of the X-trail and it goes straight onto the rear drive shaft. So with that in mind, this suddenly becomes a front diff. So running power gives you all-wheel drive, disconnecting power gives you drift mode. So that should make things a lot more interesting. And here we have it, the rear diff out of a Nissan X-trail. As I explained, it's got an electronic clutch in it. That's going to be very useful. Now I need to do some cutting in here, take out a piece out of the back of this subframe so that fits around here, and then the main part of the diff will be fitted in here where the original A-series diff was. So then the shafts will go out the sides. These are a bit too long, but we will work with that later. So we'll get this diff fitted in there, and then I'm going to get the front half of the car, bring it into the shed, and then we're going to fit all this into the Yeah, we will need to chop a little more out of the gearbox. And another hole. Alright, I've got the front rear diff thing going into place and it's sitting exactly where I wanted to. I did have to cut a bit more out of the gearbox casing, but it should fit fairly well. So yeah, I'm happy with where the drive shafts line up through the holes for the original position, so that's pretty good. I'm just going to leave this where it is, and then we're going to take all this and fit it into the front half of the car. Yes, the front half of the car.
We need a bigger hole.
Well, I've got it mocked up and the front rear front diff thing seems to fit. However, this subframe is not very helpful for doing what I need to do. It is not lined up by about 65-75 mils at the front and about 25 mils at the back. It is that twisted. So we're just going to remove the subframe. We're going to set the shell up level and have the proper subframe that I'm planning on using for this build fitted in there. This means I've got to be a little bit more careful with my cutting. So let's get rid of this subframe and move forward. That's fitting better already. So
a noise. Beep.
excellent. All right.
Make noise. Beep.
You leaning on it doesn't really help. Alright, thanks buddy. Alright, I've got everything leveled up and sitting in place. Now you might notice the diff, it's kind of not centered in this hole anymore. So yeah, the stunt frame kind of me on that one. Where this bar that I measured my center off was, well, the center was right. However, the side bars were that twisted that it put the engine offset by 15 mil, which when I put it in a straight frame makes the gap 30. Anyway, that's a problem for future Jeff. Right now we've got other issues. Now, the diff needs to come up another 85 mil, which means that it's going to be interfering with the steering rack. So we've got to get the diff into the right position because there's only one place for it to fit. And then we'll sort out the steering later. Now, this is the bit that I want to keep because this bracket here with these little lumps are specially made for the stock rack to bolt into. So I'm going to keep that just in case I need it. Now, it has already been hacked up a little bit, but I could fix that. But for now, I'm just going to cut out around that, keep these little end pieces, and later on when I build a new lower firewall, I will possibly be putting this back in if I'm still using a stock rack. Now, you may think that moving the steering rack is going to mess up all the geometry, but well, I'm putting different hubs on it, so it's going to be messed up anyway. So cut this out and go from there. So I'm going to start with my ruler, get that exactly lined up, and then use a rusty lump of metal to scribe a line. Pedals don't move far. Alright, the next issue is this seat bulkhead because it's a bit munted. Let's cut that out too. So this seat bulkhead is meant to be flat, about there somewhere. Yeah, it's pretty stuffed. Now the whole thing has already been cut out 95% of the way through, so I might as well just take these last little nicks and get rid of it. Needs to be replaced anyway, so why not remove it now? I'll carefully file this away. Alright, so here is the new power source. Should work well, runs fairly efficiently, 4-pore drive, and loves pats. Okay, Shintomi, come on. That's enough of this silliness, eh? Let's get the rear. Alright, I've got it all mocked up again. The diff is in position and it fits rather well. I took a bit extra out of this side for the exhaust to go down through, and well, that's all looking pretty good. Now, I've taken out a fair bit of strength, but it's going to go back in, and well, I needed that hole in there for it to work. So, we'll put the next bit of the engine in. And there we go. Now, once I've got the framework mounted up for the back of the diff, front of the diff now, it will all go in, and then once I've got that sorted, then I can put a new panel in here to cover up the back here, because this is going to have to all get sealed up again. There's been a few different guesses as to why, but that's going to get sealed up. So we'll put the next bit on. There we go. So still a bit more weight needs to come out of here, but as I said previously, that's going to be just something that I do when I've got time. But it does have to happen. Now, the last bit for this, and there we have it, a completely destroyed mini engine. Now, this will all make total sense as soon as we customize this piece, and to do that, we're going to be starting with a hole saw. Let's try the angry end instead. Step 1 complete. And there we go. Another piece of historic mini engine destroyed. Now that we've got a big hole in it, it's no longer useful. So, time to customize. And here's the big reveal. That worked. That should do it. And there we go. Now that bit's finished. The screw is just a placeholder until I get the little strap that goes around here with the loop on it, and then that'll all get riveted together and look much more original. Now I'll go do a little bit of paint work on here just to cover up those welds, but for the best part this is finished. Now if you don't know what this particular part is, it's actually a fuel filler. Now, yeah, that is because this is now the fuel tank for my vehicle. The real engine's going in the boot. And yes, it's still going to be all-wheel drive. Now, everywhere that there's normally a gasket, like between the block and the gearbox, there's going to be a sheet of aluminium forming a baffle. Same between the engine and the clutch casing. Now, other things like the starter motor, that is going to be stripped out and gutted, and the casing is going to be bolted back on, so it still looks like a starter motor there. That should give me another 1.5 litres capacity. So yeah, that's where this thing is going. The cam cover, that's going to be modified. That will hold a bit more fuel, but the water pump won't. The water pump is actually going to be sealed off, and that's going to be a bearing block, because the generator that goes on the side here is getting gutted, and internally I'm going to put a small electric motor in there to spin the fan, because the radiator that goes in here is still going to be cooling the engine. I've got a Davies Craig water pump that's going to be mounted down in here, everything hidden away, so when this is done, pop the bonnet, looks like a totally original Mini still. So if you go to the servo, you pull the oil cap off, put the fuel filler in and pump your engine full of petrol or gasoline, but I don't think it's ever going to make it to America, so petrol. So that's what all this nonsense has been about. This is the confession of a madman, so yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Anyway, we're still putting an engine in the back. It's going to be a Honda, and it's going to be all-wheel drive. So hopefully you'll stick around for the rest of the build, and yeah, as always, customize everything. Oh, this has been mental so far.